So, dear friends, we are at the end of October, a beautiful month. We had a lot of rains, and now the climate is also beautiful. And we also celebrated, perhaps I will refer once again to the missions and to Mother Mary. Before that, the message of the week, the gospel, and Jesus going out in search of those who are lost, those who are straying. We have this beautiful gospel wherein Zacchaeus, a man who is short, but then not only because he is short, he is one who is discarded, who has been marginalized, and we can even say that he is hated by the people because he was a tax collector. And the tax collectors were considered as betrayers because they collected taxes from the Jews and gave it to the Roman rulers. And there was a lot of things that went in between, that they didn't collect it very honestly. They collected much more from the poor people and perhaps gave less to the government. And in between, whatever was saved was theirs. And so tax collectors were rich people, all with ill-gotten wealth. And so this man, he sees that Jesus is coming and he wants to see Jesus. Perhaps a longing from his heart that someone who could give me peace, perhaps someone who would understand him. And true to his desire, he runs and climbs a sycamore tree. And the gospel says, Jesus came and his eyes fell on him. Merciful eyes, compassionate eyes. And he tells Zacchaeus, come down, I want to dine with you today. That's enough. It opens a world of mercy, compassion, and also generosity on the part of Zacchaeus, because he says at the meals, he says, Lord, I would like to give half my property to the poor, to those that I have wronged, etc., etc. So what do we learn from this? Perhaps let me take on the side of Zacchaeus himself. First of all, Zacchaeus was a short man, something like me. And he was not tall enough to follow Jesus, to see Jesus. He was short, I said. But what was more important was not his height or shape. He had a lot of shortcomings, and that was bad. He knew exactly what was wrong with him, that he cheated people, he cheated the government, he amassed what called ill-gotten wealth, and so he was short of many things. Secondly, Zacchaeus also was a rich man. Jesus said somewhere, it's easier for a person to go through the camel's eyes than for a rich man to enter heaven. And in his riches, rich men sometimes become possessive. Everything is wanted, everything is required. And therefore, we don't see the poor. Perhaps our hands and our hearts don't open up easily. He was a rich man. And thirdly, I say that something good about him, he was curious and desirous to see Jesus. Even the rich men are not happy. They know in their heart of hearts that this richness cannot satisfy them. The money just melts away, and your belongings perhaps are taken away. You have a big group of friends when you are rich, but when you are poor, not necessarily. And so Zacchaeus is desirous to have peace. He is desirous to meet people perhaps, but everyone runs away from him. Perhaps except the few that they want to profit from his richness, others don't care. He had that heart. And fourthly, I say that He was a man who was longing to meet Jesus, to seek forgiveness perhaps, to talk to him. At least one kind person who will talk to him. His heart was longing for forgiveness. God puts certain situations in our life when we have to ask forgiveness from him and from the others also. And finally, we see that when the time comes, when Jesus is really merciful to him, he is generous. Generous. According to the Jewish tradition, it was enough that they gave 20% of their wealth to the poor. It was considered that they had done their duty. Zacchaeus gives 50%, which means much more than necessary. He walks the extra mile, as it were, in experiencing forgiveness of God. On the other hand, let us see Jesus. Jesus, the first thing we can say, Jesus is always in search of the lost and the straying. All these weeks in the Gospel of Luke, we have so many instances where Jesus has gone after those that are lost. The prodigal son, the woman who has committed adultery, the Gospel which praises the Samaritan for his work, Good Samaritan. The Gospel once again which praises of the two men, the publican or the tax collector, who is very prayerful and humble before God. And so Jesus goes in search of the stray and this one. Perhaps it's the characteristic of Jesus that he doesn't mind leaving the 99 but run after that one. Happy I am if God is looking for me, searching for me. And that is how perhaps we will be united with him. Jesus' quality also, what we call he calls by name. Beautiful. If someone calls us by some bad name, we get angry, of course. If someone just sort of says, woman, come here, man, come here. But Jesus calls by name. Jesus knows your name. Jesus knows my name. And in the depth of our heart, he calls us by name. It's something special of Jesus. Besides, we see that Jesus also, whatever Jesus wants to do, it's urgent, immediate. He doesn't go on postponing, say, okay, you become nice, perhaps next month or next year you'll be better. You can do this, you can do that. No, today, immediately, he tells Zacchaeus, I want to come to your house today, immediately. Perhaps God doesn't waste time with us. If he wants us, he calls us immediately. And if you are ready, you are fortunate. Many of us put it off. That young man in the Gospel, he comes and asks Jesus something and Jesus tells him, come follow me. But then he has so many excuses. Some have the excuse that I just got married. Another one says, I have bullocks, I have just bought and I was testing. Someone else says, my father is dead, I have to bury him. Jesus can't wait. Because he wants you, he calls you by name and immediately. And the next quality of Jesus that I can speak of is his spiritual insight. Zacchaeus perhaps was dressed in his finery, in his gold. He wanted to show off to everybody. But Jesus has no eyesight for his clothes and externals. Jesus sees his heart. That this man is unhappy. That this man is searching. That this man is curious. And this man will go to any extent to fulfill his heart's desires. And that is what Jesus gives him. And lastly, forgiveness. There is no such thing as a big sinner and a small sinner. There is no such thing as big sin and a small sin. Jesus forgives him. And that is the joy of that sinner, that Jesus has forgiven me. Lazarus, the adulterous woman, and so many examples that we get in the Bible. And today, this particular man called Zacchaeus. Perhaps we are like Zacchaeus. As I said, we are not only short in stature, perhaps might be tall also, but we have a lot of shortcomings. We are far away from God, and God comes in search of us. You know, that eyesight of Jesus is supposed to be something special. It's piercing. It's piercing. It pierces the heart of Zacchaeus when Jesus sees at him and calls him by name. Let us have this experience today, that if I am lost, if I am straying, may God's merciful eyes dwell upon me, and that I come back, and I come back immediately. My dear friends, I now take you to as I said, month of October is closing up, almost the last day of the month, and I spoke of the two M's in the month of October, the month of Mary, the month of the missions. And this month we had what's called the token recitation of the Rosary. We asked the people, even those that don't say the Rosary, perhaps try in this month. I say token because we can't have token spirituality. We have to continue with the Rosary, continue with Mother Mary, because she walks along with us. That beautiful hymn, walk with us, walk with me, Mary. Come with us along the way. We are pilgrims. We are straying. We are falling. We are slipping. Come with us. You know, the Rosary is called the compendium of the mysteries of Christ. All the mysteries of the whole life of Jesus is contained in the Rosary. We have this beautiful 4 sets of mysteries, we call it. The joyful mystery, the birth and the other good celebrations of Jesus, the happiness of Jesus. The mysteries of the light, we call it. Mysteries of light. When Jesus was growing up, and when the public life of Jesus, wherein he was with the people, he was given experience, he preached the gospel, he was transfigured, he established the Eucharist. So these we call the mysteries of the light. And then we come to the sorrowful mysteries. The life of a person is joy and sorrow put together. You know, it's beautifully when a couple gets married, the husband and wife promise each other to be true to each other in sickness and in health, in life and in death. And so the sorrowful moments, they are very, very difficult moments. And the joyful moments, perhaps we have many to celebrate with us. But sorrowful moments, we have to suffer together. We have to suffer alone many a time. And therefore the sorrowful moments and the glorious moments. The glory comes after the victory over perhaps your crosses, your difficulties, your sufferings, your acceptance of what God has given you. Then comes the glory. And so all these mysteries put together are a reflection of Jesus' life according to our own life. There are many instances in our life when we can say that just as perhaps Jesus had the moment of joys, we are also given certain joys, but the other moments also we accept. So therefore, the Rosary is also called what's called the breviary of ordinary people. You know, we priests and religious, we have a prayer book. We recite the prayers in the morning, afternoon, evening, and there are these psalms that we recite. Perhaps the lay people cannot, but the Rosary contains everything. It's like a breviary for them. And my request is, don't stop the Rosary with the end of October. Continue it. May it become a habit. For the children, it becomes a beginning that you are just introducing them to the Rosary to say that, child, when you are alone, when you are in difficulty, when you are joyful, Mother Mary also joins with you. So let's continue celebrating or rather reciting the Rosary. I spoke to you about the months of missions also, and I'm very grateful to so many churches that opened up in the month of the missions for the hour of the missions to pray for the missions. And also we had the clips on the online media of the Archdiocese of the different programs, the different missionaries, of the different mission activities in different places. It's such a joy to see. It's like visiting an exhibition. You know, when you go for an exhibition, you see so many things which are not seen. You feel like buying this, you feel like taking that. So also online, it was made possible for us to see the different missionary activities, and I am very grateful to all those who contributed them. Let me now go over to the feasts that are coming up, the important feasts of perhaps November, starting from the first day. November 1st is the All Saints' Day. It's a beautiful celebration that all the heavenly saints, perhaps thousands or millions, we do not know. When we go to heaven, perhaps we'll come to know. And we know some names that are Saint Anthony, Saint Joseph, Saint Aloysius, Saint Lucy, Saint Janet, Saint Margaret. So many saints we know. And they are given a fixed day in the calendar. And what is the Saints' Day? The Saints' Day is the day of death here, but born in heaven. Born in heaven. That's the Saints' Day every day. But on 1st of November, the Church remembers all the saints. There might be numerous saints that we do not know, that they are not named, that they have become saints and are praying for us, but we may not be knowing. Not necessarily, the Church says, but celebrates. It's like the feast of heaven celebrated on earth. It's like God opening the heaven doors for us to get a peep into the heavenly realm, as it were, in order to celebrate. And therefore, the 1st of November is a great day for the Church to celebrate so many saints. Your own patron saint, you are called Teresa, you are called Peter, you are called Thomas, you are called Lucy. So we celebrate our own feast. The patrons of our own name, patrons, we remember them, and also the other saints. Perhaps there are also other saints from among the people who have died recently, the people who have lived a good life. I like to pray to these people because they may not be named, but I believe they are in heaven and they can intercede for us. So therefore, I wish you also a very happy Saints' Day. Celebrate it. If possible, go for Mass and pray for the intercession of the saints in your life and in your family. The 1st of November is also another special day for Karnataka. We call it the day of the Rajyotsava. Rajyotsava is the birth of the Karnataka state on November 1st that we celebrate. In 1956, this day was perhaps instituted because the state was formed of all the Kannada-speaking language and places put together was born Karnataka. Of course, it was not named Karnataka at that time. It was called the state of Mysore. And in 1973, 1st of November, it was named as Karnataka. Karnataka means a lofty land, a noble land. And we are fortunate to be in this state which has got everything. Best of nature, the best of coast, the best of hills and mountains, the beautiful farms and the greenery. We have also the factories, it's coming up, the factories, the companies. And Bangalore is called, as you know, the capital is a silicon city. And therefore, we are blessed in many, many ways. And the different parts of the different states were brought together. We call it the Hyderabad Karnataka, we call it the Bombay Karnataka, we call the Madras Karnataka. So these are all places that have been put together and Karnataka was formed, and Kannada is our language. It's our duty to celebrate this day. I have sent a letter to my priest to say that please pray very specially for Karnataka on this day, most especially our leaders who lead this state, that they may be good people, that God may give them grace to be selfless, to be open, to be impartial. We have to pray in a very special way because I'm not trying to be any critical, but we are hurt a little. We Christians are hurt a little last year or at the beginning of this year. We have had what's called the anti-conversion bill passed by the state. Karnataka was considered always a special state that opened its arms, embraced everybody in all the religions, in all its diversities. We Christians are very special for Karnataka, and we have done much for Karnataka. The Kannada language, what we call the Nigantu, the Kannada dictionary, the first one was brought by Kittel, a German missionary. Perhaps his intention was to preach Christ much and more, but then what he has given to the Karnataka, and there are so many, the Rice, Mr. Wesley, so many other missionaries that have come, and the missionaries also have given life for the state, and therefore Christianity has done much. The educational institutions in Karnataka, the medical institution in Karnataka, in spite of that, we were hurt that the Karnataka government brought forcefully this particular law, but we accept it. We accept it as God's will for us. We don't say anything. On the other hand, we pray for our leaders. Our scripture says, St. Paul in his letter to Timothy says, let us pray for those who are governing us, that God may guide them, that God may give them inspiration in order to be open to the others. So my dear friends, I wish you a very happy Karnataka Rajotsava Day. Please pray and celebrate this day in a very special way. November 2nd, is another very special day for us. The day of the remembering our departed, dear departed. And so we visit the cemeteries. We perhaps decorate those graves and pray at the cemeteries. We celebrate Eucharist in the cemeteries. And so that it's a very important day for us, for Christians. And I'm happy, especially in a place like Bangalore, many people visit the cemeteries, pray for the dead. But we have to understand what's the meaning of this feast, or rather the celebration. First of all, it sort of gives us a responsibility to pray for the dead. When you visit the cemetery, you see the graves, and perhaps your own near and dear ones are there, the ones who mattered much for you in your life. They have left us something, and therefore we pray for them very specially. Now is the time for us to pray for them, because now they cannot pray for themselves. It's we who can offer the prayers for them. Secondly, for us Christians, the cemetery is a place which is, I would say, second to the church, the chapel, is the holiest place, because we believe in the resurrection of the dead. And so we believe that this is the place from perhaps God has a special love for, because many of our loved ones are there. And therefore we also celebrate and entreat God. We also ask God for mercy, compassion on them, and at the same time we honor the dead in our cemeteries. That's why we keep it clean. We perhaps decorate those graves. And thirdly, cemeteries are also a reminder for us. Perhaps the graves speak to us and say that today is my day, but tomorrow you are also going to come here. So therefore it's a reminder for us of our own death, of our own end, that we have to also to live a life. We say it often, as a man, a woman lives, so he or she dies. Our life and our death not separated. They are both sides of the same coin. And as you live, perhaps you get a good death. But if you have not lived a good life, we can't expect a good death at the last moment. So therefore, my dear brothers and sisters, as you go to the cemetery, pray for the dead. Pray for yourself also. Pray for yourself also. And that our priests are working hard. I have given a special directives for maintenance of the cemeteries, because many of our cemeteries, of course, there's no place, and people had built their graves, big ones, some like mausoleums, big areas were occupied, and certain families had more and more graves because they could afford to build them and taken. But now, especially at the time of Corona, you have seen that how difficult for us was to bury the dead. I am told about 2,000 people died in the time of Corona, and we have just about 7 or 8 big cemeteries here which are full and overfull. And I have seen for myself in certain cemeteries, you have not even what we call the pathways are full. The compound wall is almost dug up, and with this kind of things. And therefore, I have sent the directives which have been prepared by all our priests for our people to say that we also have to have discipline and decorum in the cemeteries. We have to agree for certain sacrifices, that every one of us can't be having a grave, what we call a tomb that is built up room. We have to sacrifice, and therefore we have said that in future, for the next many years, perhaps we will not have permanent graves at all. So those who die now will have only a temporary grave, and after 5 years, perhaps we will allow you to shift the remains into what's called the niches that are built at the side of the cemetery, and we will system. And also those who have many graves, I say perhaps one grave is enough for all the family members of yours. If it's a big family, a joint family, perhaps 2 graves. The others you could surrender, and for those who surrender, we will give them a niche that is free. Of course, the other expenses of building the niche or covering the niche will be there, but we will also try to reach out to you, and we will make our cemeteries places where people would want to go, where places are clean and we find it. I don't like to leave my house dirty. Why should I leave the grave of my father or mother dirty? I also have to honor them properly, and therefore, in order to make it possible, I would request your cooperation, your support, your suggestions. There are different cemetery committees. Our priests are in charge. In some places, people have not understood them properly. People are fighting to say that why you should be taking my grave or that grave or this grave. Why should you be wanting a path? If you don't have a path, you can't walk. You'll have to walk over the graves and go to perhaps to see the grave that is there at the end. So therefore, we need to cooperate. We need to sacrifice, and I am sure that you will help. I pray for you, and I pray for all the departed. And surely you will have a chance to visit the cemeteries and celebrate it with gratitude for those who are dead, and at the same time praying for them. Finally, I come to the beautiful question that has been given. As I said, it's a very tricky question once again. The question reads, should Catholics participate in religious festivals of other religions? I said, very tricky question. Religious festivals of other religions. I know our festivals, the Feast of All Saints, the Feast of St. Anthony, the Feast of Christmas, Easter. This is our feast we celebrate. But is it proper for us to participate in the religious festivals of others? The festival of Hindus, Ganapati, Deepavali, perhaps some other feasts are there, of the Muslims, Ramzan, Eid. Should we participate? Perhaps we have to distinguish 2 things. First of all, we are all human beings. We are all human beings. As human beings, we have moments of joy. We have moments of sorrow. We have moments of celebration. We have marriages. We get married. The Hindus, Muslims also get married. A child is born to us, we celebrate. They also have to celebrate. And also, they also have religious feasts. Should we participate in them or not? Perhaps we have to make a small distinction. There is, in the celebration, it's called, one is what we call the ritual celebration or the religious celebration. And the second is the social celebration. Social or perhaps the community celebration. What's the ritual celebration? Ritual celebration is their mantra, their own prayers, their own incensing, their own perhaps doing certain things, lighting the fire, going around. These are called the ritual celebrations. Perhaps it's not expected of us to participate in those ritual celebrations. They will not expect us. I do not know their mantras. I do not need to go so close and adore their God. It's not necessary. They don't expect. At the same time, perhaps they would like us to celebrate. If they would like us to participate. Someone sent me a small clip wherein certain Christians are gathering in a Hindu festival. Big scandal. They have become Hindus. They are celebrating. Not necessarily. In their social celebration, if they are giving us sweets and I take one laddu from there, eat it, will I be contaminated? On the other hand, they will be so happy. Father has come for our feast. I have gone for example, Deepavali. If I light a cracker and go around with joy, a child is mad when she sees a cracker and goes around. Is something wrong in that? The happiness, the joy of being together. That is perhaps necessary. And so the social celebrations, the Muslims, the Islam, they celebrated Ramzan and they called me. And I sat with them to eat nicely, nice biryani, was there, I ate it. Perhaps we have to send some signals, we have to send some messages that we are human beings. At the base of it is the humanity is more important, and therefore celebrating or participating together in their joys and sorrows in the social celebration is nothing wrong. Religious celebration, I say, surely they don't expect us, and it's not necessary for us to participate in their religious celebration. Conversely, can I ask you that they come for our Christmas celebration? They want to cut the cake, some of them take it nicely, they want to sing also. There are some Hindus who have told me, Bishop, you should send also your children to sing carols in our houses. Is it wrong? No. They also want to be part of our joy. They also want to be part of our celebrations. And therefore there is nothing wrong in participating in the social celebrations, the joyful community celebrations of the Hindus, Muslims, or any other religion. But we surely not participate in their religious or ritualistic celebrations. My dear friends, I wish you well. May this week, and as we start a new month of November, may it be a month of joy, of celebration, starting from the first day, the All Saints' Day and the Rajotsava Day, and also the All Souls' Day and the other feasts that follow. I wish you a good weekend.
My dear friends, please do share your feedback, your impressions, and your experience, or send a message to the email address as you find on the screen, archdblr@gmail.com. And you also have the phone number, the mobile number, wherein you can send your message or WhatsApp on this number. Archbishop is ready and waiting to answer your questions. If you have any question, any doubt, any uncertainty, or there's no clarity upon something, you can ask those questions, and with the discretion that the Archbishop will surely answer these questions in the weekly feature Shepherd's Voice. Thank you, and we look forward to the next episodes.